Okay, magic makers. So many times when, I hear people talk about their goals and I say, okay, what do you think what is it going to take for you to actually hit your goals? And I hear a lot about self-discipline. And yeah, self-discipline does play a role in it because if we don't have self-discipline, how are we going to achieve anything? So let me first start with a definition. You know how I want to make sure that we're all talking about uh, being on the same page. So what self-discipline actually means is that we don't allow any distractions or short-term temptations to get in the way of achieving your goal. That is I'm speaking, that is self-discipline. So first I want us all to kind of just first acknowledge like that's what it is. So it's like making sure that we say what we want and we actually, move towards what we want. And so, people say, if I had more self-discipline, I could get more done. I could lose the weight. I could eat better, work out, get to bed on time, you name it. Now, I'm not sure if for some people, I'm not sure if you're looking for self-discipline or you're looking for a perfection, that search for control, that search for some type of like safety in knowing that you can control things. And, many of my clients and many of you listening, you're type A plus plus, and that's me, right? You want everything to be perfect. You want it to be, wrapped up with a bow in it. And, for so many of us, as we are on this quest for this self-discipline, it's really easy to fall into the perfection trap. Many of us may not identify as a perfectionist, but as I start to, unpack what that behaviors that might look like, you might be like, oh yeah, that sounds a little bit like me. So I know I'm a recurring perfectionist. I am really working on that. And so let's just start with the signs that you're chasing perfection. You're overly cautious about your choices. So much so that you can't make a decision, that you're just like, got this analysis paralysis, that you're like, all up in your head about spinach or kale, like they're both green vegetables. It's not like looking for like what has the best nutrient calculation. They're both really good as long as you're not having them candied. You're so nervous about blowing it. You don't want to mess anything up, so that you don't make those choices. You're always trying to go with that safe, secure choice. Always searching for the superfoods, again, looking for that safety. You can follow a meal plan until you can't, until like, you just like your willpower battery just like implodes on you and you're off to the races, or you can't be perfect on that meal plan. So you're off looking for something else. You start to nitpick every little thing because it's impossible for you to find traction. It's impossible for you to be perfect at it. So you keep looking for this perfect program, but you're making it impossible for you to ever break from, it also makes it impossible for you to ever feel like you can't be on I guess the best way I can describe it is sanctions isn't the word, but like on a regimented plan. Like you tell yourself, I have to follow this regimented plan or any regimented plan in order for you to have success, or that I can't, if I can't take any days off. There's no rest days. There's no wiggle room for having a bad day. And this was me, right? For me with my workouts, I could not take a day off. I was like, I'm going to lose all my gains, or I'm not going to be able to restart. I didn't trust myself. So it wasn't about self-discipline as much as it was about self-trust. I didn't trust that I would restart. I didn't trust that I could take a day off. I didn't trust that I could have ice cream in my house and not lose my stuff. So here's where, my world revolved around my workouts and around my food. And so, I totally completely underestimate that. I totally understand that. And then, as your quest for self-discipline to become a problem, that it's like it's controlled you so much that you're stressed out about every little thing, foods, workouts, you can't make a decision without, overthinking it to ad nauseum. And I've had some clients who do that, who are just like, ask them to make a simple change. They're like, ooh, ah, and it's like, pretty much asking them to cut off a limb, because it's, a change such as, adding in more good fats or a change as setting a bedtime. It just, it's really, rocks them. So, at this point, if you've identified with that and you're ready, let's keep listening to it, because at some point we have to learn, retrain ourselves so that we can go this for the long term, and if you are in this stops and starts, or you're someone who just you're like, I'm doing all the things and I'm not seeing any change. Maybe it's all the things. Maybe it's the things that you're doing. When I first start working with people, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. 80% of them come to me and, they are not far off the mark. I'd give them a C+. And it's these little, many of you listening are over 40, so you understand this. But remember back in the day when you actually turned the radio dial, and if you got a little bit out of the coverage area, you had to turn it a little bit more to make sure that the frequency got tuned in and you can hear the song without static. That's where many of you are. We just have to make some minor tweaks. It's rare. Many of you know what to do. But we've set these goals that are just blah, so high that it's really impossible for us to hold up to these standards. So the first place is we're kind of starting to shift out of this self-discipline / perfectionism, quandary here, is for us to set some really clear goals. And if you've listened to me for a while, I'm all about the clarity in our goals. It has to be written in specific language. The one that makes me the craziest. I want to be healthy this year. Okay, what does healthy look like? That's a freaking big word. We definitely have to define it. Does it mean you're going to start exercising? Does it mean that you're going to not eat cake every day? Does it mean that you're going to get to bed on time? Does it mean you're going to manage your stress? What does healthy look like? Are we trying to get off some type of medication? What does it actually mean? Get specific about the goals, very specific about your goals, so that when you hit it. And if you are looking for support, you can clearly identify what healthy means to you. And then once I clearly identify, I want to get healthy, so that means I want to get off my blood pressure medications. Great. Awesome. Let's do that. Now, give me a reason why. Is it because you hate taking pills in the morning? Is it because your family has a bad health history and you just don't want to go down that route? Is it because you're like, you know what? I'm just ready. I know that this is, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, because the reason why I ask that is because if you've heard me multiple times, this is your reason. This is your reason why. Your why is what is going to really help you push the ball up the hill. Your why is what's going to help you ask yourself better questions. And I'm going to ask myself better questions when I have a why, and I use this example all the time because I think many of you can identify with it. I work out first thing in the morning, and, I live in Boston. It's cold in the wintertime. It's dark in the wintertime. And the last thing I want to do is drag my booty out of bed. But I ask myself, Kim, is laying in this bed going to get you to where you want to go? That's the question I ask myself. I've been asking myself that question for almost 20 years, because that's my motivation. It's no, my motivation is, my why is, I want to fit in my pants. I'm vain as hell. That's my main motivation. My second motivation is that I do this for a living. So I can't be laying all up in the bed and not, walking my talk. Right? Those are my two motivations. That it's you know what? I inspire clients to get stuff done. And if I'm not getting it done, how can I expect you to take the same actions if I'm not? Right? I want to walk my talk. So that's right here. Just get super clear. And if you are someone who's I'm vague as hell, reach out, right? Reach out. I don't bite. I used to, but I don't bite anymore. Then you have this, once I say, okay, my goal is to be healthy. My goal is to get off blood pressure medication. So it's I'm going to write down at least 1 to 3 ways that I could do that. Right. And I don't, some people will tell you, write down all the ways, but I know that's going to get overwhelming. And then if you're someone who's coming out of that whole, perfectionist mindset, we're going to get into that analysis paralysis. There's 4 million things. I got to do them all. Right. 1 to 3 things, and write down you can write down more, but then I want you to take a look at the list and say, okay, what feels challenging but doable, right? Because if I say, you know, to be healthy, I need to go vegan. And if you're like, but I really like myself a good burger, oh, that ain't going to work out for you. So maybe it's like if I write it down and I say, I'm trying to get off blood pressure medication. So, and, you know, I know that the biggest thing for me is I need to lose the weight. So if I say, you know, if I'm not exercising, like, okay, I'm going to exercise 2 to 3 days a week for 30 minutes. Boom. Great. Awesome. I am going to make sure I have 2 to 3 cups of vegetables every single day. And I'm going to make sure I have at least 5 cups of water. Boom. So that's clear. And those are the 3 things I'm like, all right, that's what I'm going to focus on. Those are the 3 things I'm going to focus on. I can do more, but these 3 things, these are my core. This is my core 3 things that I'm going to do. All right. And so then the next piece we go is like, know what is going to trip you up. Know what the obstacles are. You know, is it, you know, what, and we all have the known things, you know, is it that, I was just talking to a client on the phone and she's like, you know, one of the things that trips her up, you know, here in the wintertime, she lives in the Northeast. She's like, when my kids' school gets canceled, like, and it's unexpected cancellation, you know, here, you know, weather is pretty good. And so we know days in advance if we're going to have this like crazy blizzard. So you can kind of start to mentally prepare, but it's like those days where it's like, you know, an ice storm that you're like, oh, wow, kids can't go to school, or it's a multiple hour delay, blah, blah, blah. So start to think about what are the things that, you know, trip you up, that get you out of your groove. Okay. So that way you can start to plan accordingly. You know, it's if then planning. If, you know, my kid's school is late, then I'm going to work out at home. If my kid's school is late, then we're going to have pancakes for breakfast. So, you know, whatever it is, but come up with my if then scenario. But also know that if you are someone who's trying to like work out in the morning and you're a night owl, then we have to start to say, okay, how do we, you know, get you on the backside and get you setting a bedtime? Because, you know, what happens the night before is what's going to set you up for success the day before. So, you know, starting to figure out, how do we start to slowly ebb you back, you know, ebb you back to this. And so, you know, I have a client who's a night owl and she, you know, she works really late, and, you know, when she's done, it's about 8 o'clock at night. And she's like, that's just my time to just unwind. And I'm like, great. We all need that like decompression time, but it's like, you know, it's like 4 hours. Like, you know, she finds herself passed out on the couch, you know, watching, you know, endless mindless TV that we all, you know, no shame in that. We all have found ourselves watching the mindless TV. And so I said to her, I said, you know, the biggest thing is for you is a bedtime, because she knows when she works out in the morning, she's going to get it done. She knows that it happens. She knows that, you know, work's not going to, you know, get in her way. And I said, like, even if it's 15 minutes, right? So it's like, you know, if you find yourself just, you know, passing out on the couch, then, you know, set an alarm for midnight so that the alarm goes off at midnight and you drag your butt to bed. And then, you know, maybe instead of, you know, sleeping till 8 o'clock, you sleep till 7:45. And so that way, you know, that you can just get up and do 15 minutes of something. And so that, you know, slowly over time, you know, we start to scale back our, you know, so maybe we set your alarm at midnight, and then maybe you go for like, you know, a couple weeks and you set it for 11:45, and then, you know, slowly but surely you're starting to train your body to fall asleep sooner, so that, you know, you're not up till 2, 3 in the morning and being like, you know, when that alarm goes off at 7 o'clock, you're not like, oh, good God, why? I can't, you know. So start to understand, like, where are your weaknesses? Where do you start to fall down, so that when you can identify them, then we can start to come up with scenarios to work around them. And then learn how to prioritize. You know, we are our own bottlenecks. So we need to start to come up with routines. You know, Fit Girl Magic Formula, right? Great habits lead to great routines. Routines lead to consistency, and consistency leads to results. And that is the Fit Girl Magic Formula. So we need to start to understand where are our bottlenecks. And so, you know, if me being healthy is having a glass of water, and this is a routine that I had to start, because you know, I know all the benefits of water, yet sometimes I fall victim to not having enough water. So habits need a trigger. And so if I'm trying to drink more water, for me, my trigger is I leave my water bottle on the sink. I have this bright red water bottle and I leave it on the sink and I fill it up the night before and I leave it there. So that way in the morning, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, I grab this water bottle and I'm drinking this water bottle while I'm putting on, okay, I'll admit it, my day jammies, depending on the day. And I know that I'm at least I'm starting my day off with water. And then while I'm, waiting for my coffee to brew, I'm drinking the rest of that water. And so, it could be that leaving your water in your bathroom. If you think that's weird, okay, great, no problem. Leave a water right by your coffee pot. If you're someone who drinks coffee first thing in the morning, leave your water by your coffee pot. Leave your water by your bag if you're someone who just like gets up and runs out the door, right? So start like putting little triggers around your house so that it reminds you that you're going to drink that water. Then we're going to collect data, and for some people, this is annoying as hell, and I get it. But in order for you to know what's happening, we got to use the data to better understand and assess where we're coming from, because so many of us would use emotion. When I start working with clients, somebody like, oh, I eat like crap. Oh, my food or my workouts are, right? Everything's all fire and brimstone. Then I'm like, okay, track your food. So that we can see how, bad, air quotes, you are. And for, like I said, 9 out of 10, many of the people who come to work with me, they're C+, right? They're C+. Little things that we can tweak here and there. But, many of you listening, you are not that far off the mark. Repeat that. You are not that far off the mark. So once I get taken the data, could be like tracking what it is that I'm working out. What exactly are the exercises I'm using? What are the weights that I'm using when I work out? Tracking my food. And, if someone's like, oh, tracking my food sucks. Yes, it does suck. I get it. I feel you. I feel the same way. However, one of the things that I tell people is like, if you were just like one of those people, I just can't track my food, then I'm like, okay, can you at least track how much protein you're putting in? Could you track good fats? Could you track vegetables? Could you track one thing so that you get some type of idea? We need some type of awareness as to what is going on with you. And then from there, we can strategize, when we can see, like, we have the data, right? So, like, many of you wear these damn Fitbits and we're using the data. Like, what do you use the data for, right? To strategize. So we're going to strategize and say, okay, what's happening? And no more than 1 to 3 changes. So that way we can really assess what is driving change and what is just a nice to have, right? Because sometimes you come to me with these things that are nice to have, like, like I talked about earlier, like the difference between spinach and kale. Yeah, it's a nice to have, right? That's I want us to really focus in on the big rocks, the things that are just going to really move that dial versus, the little things, like the difference between peanuts and walnuts. They're both nuts, right? So it's like really like what's really going to really drive, be the big dial movers for you. So we're going to do this for about 30 days, and then we're going to assess again. And so it's this iterative process of data, figuring out what the next steps, doing the next steps, assessing the next steps, and just like a big rolling stone so that we have improvements. Then accountability, right? Self-discipline is one piece, but are you holding yourself accountable to yourself? There's so if someone were to make plans with me and says, Kim, I'm going to meet you at 4:00, here, you bet your sweet bottom, I'm going to be there at 4:00. And if I'm not, I'm going to say, hey, Sarah, I know we're supposed to meet at 4:00, but I couldn't get there at 4:00, but hey, let's just make sure we touch base at, I'm going to communicate. Where for us, we can easily blow ourselves off. And I see this regularly where like, oh, I got to work late and I'm supposed to go to the gym at 5:30. I'll just blow it off. Or I work at a gym where have to pre-book your session. And so if you pre-book your session and you have an 8-hour cancellation policy, if you cancel within 8 hours, then they charge you. And I see a lot of people not making the appointment because like, oh, what if I can't make it? What if I can't make it? And not putting themselves out there for the accountability. And so if you're someone who's like, Kim, I really do need someone who can hold me accountable, someone who I could just say, who's going to hold my feet to the fire. I'm pretty freaking good at that. Tell me what you want to achieve. I can help you set realistic goals that you're excited about, but I can also help you be more accountable, because many of the times we aren't realistic with our goals. We're like, I'm going to work out every single day for 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, what happens when you get sick? What happens if your kid gets sick? Right. I like to throw that dose of reality in it, because like, that's just life. Life is real. And so as we start to get here, we're truly mastering our self-discipline. We're understanding what it is. We're understanding what the benefits of it. We're practicing it every day and knowing that I don't have to be perfect to succeed, right? Self-discipline is our way of making great decisions. It's our way of, avoiding the temptations in order for the short-term gain. It's us really asking the same question, like, this is what I want. These are the things I want, how I want to achieve them. And I'm never saying like, no, you can't have fun. Like, no, you can't blow off a workout, but it's asking yourself, how many times are you leaning more towards the, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. I'll start next Monday, versus the, hey, I told myself I was going to do this, and I'm actually going to get it done. So let's just start to back away from being afraid and, being afraid to make decisions so that we keep doing the same thing to feel safe, and then wonder why we aren't getting different results. And one of the best books I ever read, it was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And that book changed my life. And so if you're ever just like, feel like you're in this analysis process, for sure, read that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And, ladies, you don't need to have all the answers like right freaking now. Like, you're never going to have all the answers. You don't need the answers to take the first step. All you need is the first step. I think it's by Martin Luther King, but there's a quote, and it says, all you need on the staircase of life, all you need to do is to see the first step. So I challenge you just to see that first step, and so that you can stop the over analyzing, the overthinking, because you are going to spin your wheels for decades if you're always in that analysis loop. So I want you to know that fear and discomfort is part of the process. And I'm not asking you to like have the fear like you're white knuckling it. I'm asking you just to feel like, I don't know if this is going to work out, but I'm going to do it. That fear is really freaking good. That fear knows that you're on to something. And think of it as an experiment. I do this for 30 days. If it sucks, I can go back to doing what I was doing. If it works, boom, I figured something out. I'm off of the circle, because that's the worst when I see people like, week in and week out. I'm like, hey, did you add a good fat? Well, I was thinking about all the different good fats I could add, but I wasn't sure exactly which good fat to do. So I'm still doing some analysis. Girl, pick a good fat. Pick a good fat. Try it out. See how you feel. So get out of the fear. Know that self-discipline can help you, but you want to make sure that it's not borderlining on self. It's not borderlining on perfection. All right, ladies, have a fabulous day. And thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you, or hear you, or listen to you. What's that best word? Next week. Stay fabulous.